Imagine a neighborhood where just the driveways cost more than most houses, neighbors don't move for decades, and millionaires blend in so well you'd miss them at the grocery store. That's the kind of collective wealth we're talking as we break down the richest black neighborhoods in D.C., counting backwards through the communities that quietly hold the city's real wealth. Fair warning, the number one spot flips the script entirely about your perception of black money in America. Number 10. Fort Washington, Prince George's County, Maryland. Let's start our list with a neighborhood which doesn't exactly look like a conventionally rich place, yet most of the people here are millionaires. About 60 to 65% of residents in Fort Washington are black, and the neighborhood was built by folks who didn't chase trends or flex online. They built exits, pensions, and waterfront equity, then went home early. It has a median household income north of $114,000 and an eye-popping homeownership rate around 87%. That alone tells you something is different here. People are not just cycling in and out, but they're planting flags for the long run. The housing market makes that clear as well. Median home values range from about $900,000 to $1.4 million, with waterfront and Potomac-adjacent properties routinely exceeding those figures. Homes with water views average around $1.1 million. And here's the twist. That's often a 30 to 40% discount compared to similar properties across the river in Northern Virginia. Same water, different zip code, dramatically different demographic outcome. But who lives here? A significant portion of residents are military retirees, senior officers, defense contractors, and federal executives tied to Joint Base Andrews, the Pentagon, and Capitol Hill defense infrastructure. Think O5Es and O6 as who retired with pensions, plus second careers in consulting or acquisition. That combination, guaranteed income layered with high-paying post-service roles, creates unusually durable household wealth. Education levels mirror that profile, with high rates of bachelor's and advanced degrees in security studies, engineering, and federal acquisition disciplines. These are fields that reward precision and longevity, and Fort Washington feels built for both. Lifestyle signals follow naturally. Boat slips, private marinas, and personal watercraft access line the Potomac. Tantalon Country Club anchors the social scene, serving as both recreational hub and networking space for black professionals who value tradition as much as access. Proximity to National Harbor adds another layer, not just entertainment, but ownership opportunities in hospitality and events. Perhaps the most compelling tension here is stewardship. Civic conversations often revolve around how to protect shoreline heritage while navigating high-end development pressure. It's a rare position, black homeowners as gatekeepers of waterfront legacy. Number 9. North Brentwood, Prince George's County, Maryland. North Brentwood is a neighborhood that you usually hear about only if someone's aunt grew up there and never left. Blink while driving through Prince George's County, and you might miss this place entirely. But slow down for 5 minutes, and the math starts revealing something rare. This town became official in 1924, making it the first incorporated African-American municipality in Prince George's County. That detail is not trivia. It's the foundation of everything that followed. North Brentwood was a deliberate act of self-governance, built on land tied to black Civil War veterans and sustained by families who understood early that land ownership was leverage, not just shelter. Today, only about 680 people live here. That's it. Still, within that small footprint, nearly 80% of households own their homes, a figure that quietly dwarfs national and regional averages. Most of those homes are detached single-family houses built before 1960, meaning many residents aren't juggling inflated mortgages or chasing appreciation. They have already caught it. Median household income sits around $96,000, but average household income climbs above $116,000, revealing something interesting beneath the surface. A concentration of higher earners layered into a community where costs were locked in decades ago. And here's the kicker. Home values in this neighborhood hover around $412,000, rising at roughly 10% year over year. It might look like a decent growth for newer buyers, but for long-time residents who bought in at a fraction of that price, it's life-altering equity. This is the kind of place where a house quietly pays for college, helps fund a small business, or becomes the safety net when life throws a curveball. Let's talk about jobs now. The employment patterns here reflect stability more than flash. Roughly two-thirds of residents work white-collar jobs, with a notable share tied to government and non-profit sectors. These are steady paychecks, benefits-heavy careers, and long timelines. The kind of income that pairs perfectly with paid-down homes. What really sets North Brentwood apart, though, is continuity. The AME Zion Church, Sis's Tavern, and its historic district aren't just landmarks, they're anchors. While nearby areas lost autonomy or turned over completely, North Brentwood stayed incorporated, self-directed, and culturally intact. It's not the richest place on this list by raw numbers, but as a blueprint for how Black wealth survives pressure, it's one of the most instructive. And as we move into D.C. proper, that wealth starts stepping closer to power. Number 8. Crestwood, Washington, D.C., Ward 4. Crestwood feels different the moment you enter it. The streets widen, the houses sit back a little farther. Rock Creek Park hums quietly along the edge, acting like a natural buffer between the neighborhood and the rest of the city. This might feel like aesthetic geography, but it's actually strategic placement. Historically part of D.C.'s so-called Gold Coast, Crestwood attracted Black elites who wanted proximity to downtown influence without giving up space or serenity. That choice aged extremely well. Today, average home values sit around $1.4 million, with recent sales pushing well into the $1.5 million range. Inventory stays tight, and when homes hit the market, they don't linger. The neighborhood remains just over 50% Black, with wealth anchored in professional networks rather than entrepreneurial volatility. Residents include senior government officials, policy directors, international organization staff, and executives tied into D.C.'s institutional bloodstream. These are careers built on access, information, and long horizons. Many long-term homeowners purchased before Crestwood's price explosion, which means appreciation here has been dramatic. It's the kind of equity growth that doesn't just change balance sheets, it changes family trajectories. Even the rental market reflects that pressure, with rents often exceeding $2,600 a month for those trying to buy time in the neighborhood. What makes Crestwood particularly powerful is the diversity. It offers outdoor luxury through Rock Creek Park, urban proximity to downtown, and a residential calm that feels insulated from chaos. That combination is rare anywhere in D.C., and Black professionals recognized its value early. But as impressive as this neighborhood is, it still isn't the apex of Black affluence in the region. Higher up this list, the wealth becomes less about homes and more about systems, the places where influence, capital, and proximity fully converge. Number 7. Shepherd Park, Washington, D.C., Ward 4. The Black community in Shepherd Park grew over the years with intention, planted roots, and built lives that didn't require constant reinvention. Stretching along Georgia Avenue in northwest D.C., this area became a magnet for Black professionals once legal barriers began falling in the mid-20th century. And instead of cycling through waves of change, it held its shape. Today, Ward 4's median household income sits above $128,000, and Shepherd Park plays a meaningful role in that figure. Black residents make up roughly 57% of the neighborhood, anchoring both its culture and its economic identity. What's striking here isn't just income, it's when that income arrived. Many homeowners bought decades ago, well before D.C.'s housing market turned hyper-competitive. That timing matters. Median home values now hover around the $1 million mark, with sales frequently landing between $900,000 and $1.1 million. For families who purchased in the 1980s or 1990s, that appreciation isn't theoretical. It's equity you can see, borrow against, and pass down. Professionally, Shepherd Park is almost entirely white-collar. Nearly 95% of employed residents work in professional roles, with a heavy presence in federal agencies, policy shops, nonprofits, and adjacent consulting work. This is federal salary money, predictable, benefits-rich, and designed for endurance. Pair that with a home bought at yesterday's prices, and you get a quiet wealth engine that compounds without drama. Education levels reinforce the pattern. Roughly 60% of adults hold a bachelor's degree or higher, feeding a loop of stable employment, upward mobility, and long-term security. It's not the kind of wealth that shows up on social media. It shows up in retirement accounts, paid-off mortgages, and kids who don't start adulthood from zero. Community organization has also played a role. Shepherd Park's civic associations historically pushed back against neglect and destabilization, maintaining infrastructure and residential character while surrounding areas changed rapidly. That kind of local vigilance doesn't make headlines, but it protects value. Shepherd Park shows what happens when Black professionals claim space near power and refuse to be temporary. And just up the road, that same strategy evolves into something even more pronounced. Number 6. Largo, Prince George's County, Maryland. Largo feels like a place people arrive on purpose, not by accident or because it was cheap, but because the math finally made sense. Somewhere between federal pay grades, daycare spreadsheets, and Zillow alerts, a whole generation of Black professionals quietly decided this was where the future penciled out. Nearly 80% of Largo's population is Black, and this isn't symbolic representation, it's economic concentration. Median household income sits around $112,000, comfortably above Maryland's statewide median, and household balance sheets reflect that confidence. Home ownership hovers around 71%, and median home values have climbed from roughly $420,000 to about $480,000 in just 2 years. That kind of appreciation doesn't happen by vibes alone. So what's pulling people here? Let's start with proximity. Largo sits close enough to D.C. to make a federal commute tolerable, roughly 25 to 30 minutes on the Green Line, but far enough out that families can trade apartment living for square footage and actual grass. Many residents work in federal agencies, contracting roles, healthcare administration, or logistics tied to Joint Base Andrews. These are careers built on reliability, not volatility, and they often come in pairs. Dual-income households stacking salaries while locking in mortgages before prices sprint further ahead. The housing stock reflects that intent. Single-family homes in Largo's core zip codes now sell anywhere between the mid-$400K and low $500K, depending on age and upgrades, and price per square foot keeps inching upward. Realtors increasingly describe the area as a Black professional landing zone, which is industry shorthand for demand without hype. People aren't flipping here for clout. They're settling. Education pipelines reinforce the loop. With Bowie State University nearby and the University of Maryland feeding regional institutions, Largo benefits from a steady flow of credentialed workers. Add in amenities like Largo Central Park, the Sports and Learning Complex, and metro-adjacent retail development. And suddenly this suburb isn't just livable. It's strategic. One of the more interesting shifts is that Largo has become a quiet stronghold for high-earning Black women, particularly in federal and healthcare roles. That demographic detail matters because it changes how wealth behaves. More stability, earlier home purchases, and a longer runway for equity growth. But if Largo is about momentum, the next neighborhood is about leverage. Same region, different asset, and this one doesn't depreciate. Number 5. Glendale, Prince George's County, Maryland. Glendale doesn't announce itself with shopping centers or commuter buzz. It unfolds slowly, almost stubbornly, with long driveways, wide setbacks, and land that seems to breathe a little easier than the rest of the county. And that's exactly the point. Roughly 63% of Glendale's residents are Black, and median household income pushes close to $130,000, well above county and national norms. But income alone doesn't explain this place. The real story sits underfoot. Many properties span 1, 2, and even 5+ acres, an anomaly in a metro area where density usually wins. That land is quite significant. While median home values range broadly from $450,000 to $700,000, depending on improvements, the underlying acreage creates a different kind of balance sheet. Zoning remains largely low density and agricultural, limiting overdevelopment and protecting per parcel value. It's a built-in brake on compression. Fewer neighbors, fewer subdivisions, more control. Professionally, Glendale skews specialized. Residents often work as federal scientists, USDA analysts, environmental policy experts, and technical contractors, roles that don't require daily visibility but command solid pay bands. These careers pair naturally with a community that values privacy and permanence over convenience. There's history here as well. Portions of Glendale trace back to post-Civil War Black farmland, and that legacy still echoes in how land is treated, not as something to flip, but something to steward. Even today, equestrian facilities and riding trails thread through the area, creating one of the rare pockets in Greater D.C. where Black land ownership intersects with rural luxury. Nationally, Black equestrian ownership is statistically tiny. Here, it's quietly normalized. Development pressure hasn't disappeared. It's just slower, more deliberate. The historic Glendale Hospital site is being reimagined as a mixed-use park and preservation space, adding cultural gravity without erasing character. And as impressive as this is, now we enter the top 4 category of this list, where the Black communities push even closer to the epicenter of institutional power. Number 4. Upper Marlboro, Prince George's County, Maryland. Upper Marlboro moves at a different speed. You feel it as soon as the road opens up, the lots stretch wider, and the houses sit farther back from the street. Not to hide, but to claim space. This is a place where wealth isn't recalculated every payday. It's measured in acreage, zoning maps, and how long a family plans to stay rooted. Roughly 3/4 of the population here is Black, with median Black household incomes hovering between $120,000 and $125,000. Solid numbers, yes. But income isn't the headline. Land is. Many households control anywhere from 2 to 20+ acres, a level of ownership that's almost unheard of this close to Washington, D.C. Estate-style homes routinely land in the $700,000 to $1.2 million range, while equestrian properties and subdividable parcels push well past $1.5 million, sometimes crossing $2 million without blinking. Upper Marlboro's economic gravity comes from influence as much as ownership. As the county seat of Prince George's County, it attracts senior administrators, planning officials, land use attorneys, and procurement professionals. People whose decisions quietly shape development outcomes across the region. These roles don't always come with flashy paychecks, but they come with foresight. Knowing where roads will go, which parcels will rezone, and how long approvals take can be more valuable than any bonus structure. Then there's the land itself, working patiently. Families generate income by leasing acreage for horseboarding, agricultural use, or hosting events, weddings, rodeos, cultural festivals, all without selling an inch. Some parcels qualify for limited subdivision, meaning a single rezoning approval can unlock 7-figure paper gains while the original homestead remains intact. It's wealth that compounds slowly, almost stubbornly. Culturally, Upper Marlboro wears its affluence differently. The Showplace Arena anchors the area, hosting one of the East Coast's largest equestrian and livestock circuits, including Black rodeos and agricultural expos that trace deep historical lines. Horses, trailers, equipment, these are status symbols here, signaling capability rather than consumption. What makes this place quietly extraordinary is continuity. Several Black families in Upper Marlboro can trace uninterrupted land ownership back to Reconstruction-era purchases by formerly enslaved ancestors. That kind of lineage creates a different relationship with money. Land isn't liquidated. It's leveraged, preserved, and passed forward. But if Upper Marlboro shows what happens when land and time work together, the next neighborhood proves what happens when structure, stability, and systems line up perfectly. Number 3. Bowie, Prince George's County, Maryland. With a Black population hovering between 55% and 60%, median Black household incomes in the $140,000 to $150,000 range, and homeownership around 75%, Bowie stands as one of the most complete expressions of Black suburban affluence in Greater Washington area. Median home values now sit between roughly $525,000 and $650,000, but many families arrived long before those numbers felt intimidating. The secret wasn't luck, it was infrastructure. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center sits nearby, feeding Bowie a steady pipeline of engineers, program managers, and aerospace administrators. the kind of GS13 to GS15 careers that quietly anchor neighborhoods for decades. Layered on top of that came defense and aerospace contracting roles in systems engineering, procurement, and compliance. These were not boom and bust jobs. They survived 2008. They barely flinched in 2020. Education added another pillar. Bowie became home to principals, superintendents, and university administrators, often paired in two-income professional households. The result was predictability: mortgage payments made on time, schools supported consistently, and neighborhoods that didn't hollow out when markets turned. Housing design played its part. Much of Bowie's stock was built from the 1960s onward, offering family-sized homes at controlled density. HOA governance, often criticized elsewhere, helped stabilize values here. During the foreclosure crisis, Bowie posted some of the lowest distress rates in Prince George's County, reinforcing its reputation as a place where people stayed put. What truly sets Bowie apart is timing. Many families bought homes in the 1980s and 1990s for $150,000 to $250,000. Today, those same homes are worth 3 to 4 times that amount, often fully paid off. That equity-funded college educations, small businesses, and second properties, the quiet mechanics of intergenerational wealth. Bowie's wealth is famously unglamorous. No speculative frenzy, no dramatic reinventions, just a durable model executed early and held steady. That's why Bowie ranks third. It didn't chase trends, it became the template. And then there's the place where that template matures into something more discreet, more networked, and closer to the levers of national power. Number 2. Mitchellville, Prince George's County, Maryland. Mitchellville feels composed. Streets curve gently, houses sit confidently on their lots, and everything about the place suggests intention. Nearly 90% of residents are Black. Median household incomes fall between $135,000 and $145,000, and homeownership approaches 80%. Many households here quietly carry net worths well into the 7 figures, driven largely by long-held home equity. This is not aspirational wealth, it's operational. Mitchellville is home to senior federal executives, SES track administrators, deputy directors, chiefs of staff, alongside policy consultants, senior attorneys, and regulatory specialists. These are roles adjacent to decision-making, where influence flows through proximity and trust as much as title. Careers here often extend beyond government into advisory contracts, boards, and consulting exits that compound earnings without increasing visibility. Location sharpens the advantage. Mitchellville sits 15 to 20 minutes from D.C.'s power corridors, close enough for access, far enough to avoid scrutiny. That distance matters. It allows residents to operate without constant exposure, media attention, or political theater. What truly distinguishes Mitchellville is social capital density. Informal mentorship networks connect neighbors across agencies. Promotions, lateral moves, and post-government opportunities circulate through trusted relationships built over years. Conversations at backyard cookouts carry as much strategic weight as formal meetings downtown. Housing acts as a natural gatekeeper. With median values between $600,000 and $800,000, entry requires 2 solid incomes or an established career, filtering out churn and reinforcing stability. Many residents underdisplay their wealth by design. Modest cars, understated homes, aggressive retirement, and investment strategies. Mitchellville often serves as a staging ground. Families build here, consolidate assets, then later upgrade into Woodmore or similar enclaves once net worth crosses higher thresholds. Mitchellville ranks second because it represents consolidation, the moment where Black federal influence becomes quietly institutional. And the only place left on this list takes that influence and turns it into something unmistakable. Number 1. Woodmore, Prince George's County, Maryland. Woodmore is an entirely different universe from the rest of this list, and you feel it the moment you enter. This is a majority Black enclave where wealth isn't aspirational or emerging, but already settled in. Roughly 8 out of 10 residents here are Black, and the money operates on a completely different frequency. The average household pulls in just north of $200,000 a year. And that's before you factor in the kind of balance sheet wealth that never shows up on a W-2. Homes regularly sit in the million-dollar range, with newer or expanded estates quietly trading hands well past the $2 million mark. What really tells the story, though, is stability. Nearly everyone here owns their home, and many families have been behind the same gates for decades. Even the HOA carries weight. Just being inside Woodmore adds a noticeable premium compared to nearby neighborhoods. Woodmore's physical design does most of the wealth preservation work before money even enters the picture. Controlled access, private security, limited entry points, and low-density estate zoning all reduce turnover. Homes often span 7,000 to 10,000 square feet, with setbacks that discourage speculation and rentals. Strict HOA governance keeps architecture consistent and values climbing. Volatility never really gets a seat at the table. The people who live here reflect that structure. Woodmore is packed with decision-makers, SES-level federal executives, agency deputies, budget overseers, and procurement leaders. In the private sector, you'll find defense and intelligence contractors at the partner or C-suite level, private equity principals, asset managers, and big law partners whose practices sit at the intersection of regulation and power. Dual six-figure households are common, but so are single-earner families pulling seven figures through equity, carry, or firm ownership. What outsiders often miss is how understated the wealth feels. Equity in the primary residence alone frequently clears $1 million, layered on top of federal pensions, deferred compensation, private equity stakes, trusts, and family offices. Spending tilts toward education, travel, and legacy planning rather than loud consumption. Woodmore Country Club operates less like a leisure amenity and more like a quiet boardroom, where relationships compound over time. The symbolism runs even deeper. Built on former plantation land, once home to an explicitly exclusionary country club, Woodmore flipped the script within a generation. It didn't just integrate, it surpassed its prior era in wealth and influence. Residents often put it simply, you don't move here to show wealth, you move here to stop explaining it. That's why Woodmore stands alone at number 1. It isn't emerging, transitioning, or proving a point. It's a fully stabilized Black wealth ecosystem, gated, networked, intergenerational, and self-reinforcing. Once you understand Woodmore, the entire map of Black power in the D.C. region snaps into focus.